creative fulfillment. We're creatives, but how do we like find more alignment to make it feel more, fulfilling in society? Like it's pushing us to be more individualized, like hyper individualized. Don't rely on anything. Yeah, I think you're speaking to universal here, where there's so many influencers, so many big channels with like big numbers, but then in reality, like they're not making like any sizable income. And it's all the like numbers, and then like what does it mean? Like what are these likes? Why are people commenting nice or cool shot or you should do this better? It's like then there's hate comments too. It's like like what? I wasn't expecting this.
If I want to have the systematic change, is charging people a lot of money the answer?
I think it would be the beginning.
This current time in my life is just more of a waiting period, because there's so many great things that are kind of in the pipeline and that are developing from what I've built. So just for reference, for you guys, I guess I started my content creation journey back in 2020 as a wizard who live streamed on Twitch reading people's tarot cards. That was my introduction. Was a fun period. However, it had some ups and downs. It got pretty real. Turned out a lot of people are pretty lonely and don't have anyone to really converse with. So a wizard reading tarot cards is kind of like an open invitation for people to trauma dump, which I loved. I was able to really help and answer some great questions to people, because whatever you think about tarot, I think it just opens up a deep space of conversation where small talk is skipped. Yeah, and then it just kind of spiraled into me creating videos about ancient history, because it was a subject I was really fascinated in, and tarot kind of brought me down that mystical path. And that really blew up for me, especially on TikTok. So I really dedicated a lot of time to that. And now, but however, I never earned money from that. That's kind of like a thing, because I registered the TikTok back in the Netherlands, and they're not part of the program of the TikTok reward system. So I think overall, I don't even want to calculate how much money I would have made if TikTok would have been partnering in the Netherlands. However, doesn't really matter to complain about it. And so I started also doing like a German channel and expanding that currently to make documentaries. There's this movie company. They asked me to create a documentary with them, and we filmed something really, really special back in March. However, currently it's also that waiting period where it's also okay, it needs to get pitched to different companies, of course, to try and see where we can sell the documentary. And then also the process of making it is also a bit bigger than creating TikTok videos, it turns out. So yeah, this, I think what I'm currently kind of like my reason for why I'm here is kind of just figuring out a creative space where I can kind of use this waiting period in my life in order to do some really productive creative things, and kind of find an inner fire again that I used to have when it comes to all of these videos. And there's still a lot of passion for the subject. I just feel like, especially with the way the world is going, I don't know, I don't want to black pill, but it's kind of like a dystopia we live in. So I want to do something that's actually valuable. And that's kind of like the dance between the two. Whereas if you create content, it kind of feels like you're feeding the beast of the machine that keeps people glued to their screens. And at the same time, I want to create videos that inspire people to kind of get off their screens or start creating more. And it's a fine dance between the two, but I'd say that's kind of the goal right now.
Awesome. There's so much there. Like, wow, I'm super excited to have you here, and we can dive deep into all of that. Does anyone else want to do like an intro or kind of get to know you? What are you working on nowadays?
Like I'm happy to like go ahead. Like Dominic, you already know what I do, but maybe for the other ones, I can like introduce myself. So I'm basically, you could say I'm a music producer, but I don't really produce music. Um, what I do is I use the same tools as a music producer, but I basically recreate sounds. And then I put those into sample packs and sell them. And I have like a YouTube channel, which I stopped doing because I just hated creating content. Like I grew to like about 50,000 followers, but then realized I could just run ads to my sample packs and sell them. And that also gave me the confidence to quit my job just a couple of months ago. Yeah, and so I'm pretty happy that I'm free of like the content hell, because I just realized it was like a necessary evil for me. Maybe there's a place for it where I can like go towards it from a more, not from a place where I need to do it, but more from a place of where I like actually want to share something. Yeah, and so currently I'm just trying to figure out what's like the next thing, because I've been like my goal was just to quit my job and make enough money so I could do that. And so I was like always having some ideas what to do past that, but I haven't really, like, now I'm in the space where I'm like, okay, what's like the actual thing I want to do now that I'm like at this point where I'm full time. Yeah, so this is pretty much where I'm at right now.
Awesome. Sounds like there's a theme of like sharing versus needing to share. And it's super exciting that you quit your job and like these ads have been like successful, and you realize that you don't have to do this content hamster wheel to like make things monetizable. And now you're at a point where you're actually trying to find what you want to do with all this.
Yeah. Which is time. Like quite frightening in a way, because I'm like, now I'm like onto something bigger here, not just like being full time.
Yeah. There's so many horizons. There's so many paths you could go down.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I jumped into the call basically out of curiosity. Like I don't know. Maybe probably there would be something valuable for me on the calls. I wanted to join the first one, but wasn't able to do so. And generally, I see that I'm probably like much older than all of you guys. And at the moment, I'm probably having like midlife crisis. So I'm working full time, but like it's I have a burnout like 2 years ago probably. So I plan to basically stop working end of this year and see what to unveil. Hard to say, but I don't even have an idea. Although I like producing videos, like corporate stuff, like interview stuff like that. So I'm able to do so, although I don't have any customers. So it's like total blank, and I don't know what I'm doing. Although maybe I would buy a food truck and have a food truck. Don't have a like solid idea, but I'm generally like jack of all trades, so I can do anything I want. But we'll see. I don't know really. And actually, I like your slow-paced content. Like this is kind of different than everything served on YouTube. Like everything else is like this fast-paced. I don't like to watch it even. Although I watch your videos on 2x, I usually watch YouTube on 2x because I don't have much time. So that's that. And I don't know what will happen next year. We'll see. We plan to a trip to States. It would happen in June. We'll see. I probably would meet some content creators from States there. I got some casual contacts on YouTube, but I can make it happen. I know that there are some guys making meetups because we are going to Florida. So I know a few guys via YouTube. It's like I briefly know them. I'm just a subscriber, but I know I can join these meetups and see what will happen.
Gotcha. I also watch most things on 2x. Like there are very few channels that I watch on 1x. And yeah, I feel like a lot of people watch stuff on 2x. There's like so much content to go through, so little time, you know. But yeah, it sounds like you're going through a lot. It sounds like you're going through this burnout. still, and having this full-time job that seems like it's bearing a lot on you, and you came with curiosity and producing videos and a background of like a jack of all trades. And yeah, maybe I don't know where we can take all that, but I'm super excited to have you and hope I can help.
Yep. I mean, I wish there would be 2.5x or 3x on YouTube, because some content is really slow. So I basically watch it on faster speed because it is slow and I don't have time. But some content is like I watch on 1x because of the story it shows, and it should be watched at the speed it should be. It was recorded. But some content is like too slow to maybe not waste time, but I don't have much time, so that's the main reason.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of looking at like the themes of general topics that we can talk about, kind of burnout, jack of all trades, creating inspirational, like valuable videos, and figuring out like a creative space to help secure that, and like kind of the share versus needing to share in the content hamster wheel, and finding the thing you actually want to do. That's kind of like the themes I'm hearing. And so we can like double click on any of those, depending on which ones you guys want to go into. So it looks like...
I guess I'm back.
Yeah, can you hear us?
Do you guys hear me? Yeah.
Okay, cool. I tried to give a brief intro, but I think you'd do a way better job.
It's actually never happened with me that like my Zoom didn't work, but sometimes it looks like a software problem. Something I wanted to add to the previous point is there is actually this extension called Video Speed Controller, which lets you put like 3x speed and it lets you use it on like any website. So it's pretty cool. I usually just was stuck at like 1x speed, but it's usually useful for like websites that doesn't have like speed controllers. So something to look into. But yeah, to introduce myself, because like I see that there's a lot of new people here. I'm Ben. I mostly edit YouTube videos. That's what kind of I do as like a job. Now I kind of get into YouTube and started making YouTube videos in the business education niche. And I mean, what I would want to get out of the call, or like the topics I'm lately interested in, is like creative fulfillment and just purpose in general. Because what I tend to find kind of lately is that like, even that I kind of do what I love on a daily basis, somehow I just don't find it that fulfilling. And it's hard to understand that gap between it, of like, what could be the issue there. And yeah. So I guess that's for instruction.
I feel like that theme plays into a lot of the work that we're doing total as a group right now. Does that make sense? Like creative fulfillment, we're creatives, but how do we like find more alignment to make it feel more, fulfilling, right? So I'd love to like double tap into that, Ben, and kind of like go deeper into that. Like, what is making you feel like it's not fulfilling in the creative process?
Yeah. I mean, just to like, make it a little bit bigger picture, it's like I kind of like reached a goal right now in my life. Like a lot of goals I had, I kind of like ticked off. And I thought that like once I will get there, like, sometimes we make unconsciously this like contract with ourselves, like once I get to XYZ, I will be happy. Or like we change that word to don't have problems, or everything will be better. And then you get there and you realize like, oh shit, actually nothing changes. And you're the exact same person, the exact same problem. You are just at a different place in the life. And so that was a big realization. It's like I kind of was chasing freedom in the last year or two, which was an interesting goal. And like I think a lot of people have it maybe at the start. and then it today hits me that like I kind of like, now I can travel. I was just surfing today. I have like my work is like I work when I want to work on what I want to work on. I have good projects, and then I'm like, I no longer find it that fulfilling. I realize it's like freedom is maybe not the best goal to have because it's very quickly gets boring. Like, I think for part of our life we want that, but after it really becomes like, I don't know, just one cup that like we need to fill maybe. And now I'm kind of circling back to this idea that maybe what all of us want is to just, focus on like, our real purpose is just work, and not in work as like some soul draining corporate thing, but like that use the word as like hobby that can make money. Because, it's like everywhere I look in like everyone's life, everyone is usually like obsessed with their work or like obsessed with their thing. For some people it's fishing, for some people it's maybe motorbikes, for other people it's YouTube videos. And even like I'm going through this there is even this book called Flow. I don't know if anyone heard about it. It's written by this psychologist called Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who talks about this idea of like he was trying to search for what makes life worth living. And what he ended up finding is like it's actually like doing meaningful work at the end of the day, which puts us in this flow state. So it's funny that like most people have the goal of like not working, when actually what we want is actually to just work on something nice. So yeah, that's kind of where I am.
Thanks for sharing that. I saw Nathan like bobbing his head 100% agreeing.
Yeah, that's freedom thing is like kind of interesting. You like if you don't have it, you want to have it, but when you have it, you don't want to have it, or it gets boring really quickly.
Yeah,
Because you kind of want to have like what makes life interesting is like a purpose, and the purpose is often connected towards responsibility, and responsibility is then limiting your freedom again. Yeah, but I'm like, I'm also in a position where I'm like, when I have too much to do, I kind of want the freedom, but when I get the freedom, it becomes boring. It's an interesting cycle, and I think I believe the way to get out of it is to commit to something much bigger. And that doesn't necessarily need to be like work. It can be like creating a family. It can be whatever like you commit yourself to. I feel like. Does that make sense?
yeah. But in my definition, committing ourselves to that one thing is the work. For some people, that's family. For some people, that's hobby.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting because once you commit yourself, then you kind of have to get rid of freedom. Then you're chasing it again. It's a weird loop, or maybe just something that like one has to experience to get out of their life.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
feel like
like
you have to. Yeah, I feel like you have to go through it like maybe multiple times until you get it. That you like kind of don't actually want freedom, or just to some extent.
I think we just want the belief that we have freedom. We maybe don't even need it. Just like I could travel to this place, but I don't need to.
Anyone else want to add on to that?
In general, the concept of freedom, I thought about this the other day. I don't know if human can ever truly be free, because there's always kind of things that are keeping us in place that we kind of need in order to survive, and be that clients that sustain us with financial income. There's always strings attached to everything. And I still very much agree with what you guys said. And I think there's something really valuable to be said here. It's just a matter of how to find that fulfilling purpose in life that can really give us that feeling of waking up energized every single day. And I think creative work is a good way to kind of find that, or express yourself to an extent. Yet it feels like to me, in this current construct of society where individualism is also pretty pushed upon or glorified, it also gets more difficult kind of to join a bigger purpose. I see the value of family. I think that's a great way to dedicate purpose, yet that's of course a full-time thing. Yet there is this role of, let's just say traditionally, the masculine, that is kind of the supplier or the provider for that set family. And I think to achieve that by doing something that's really purposeful and for the greater good, that is also something that I completely aspire to. It's just a matter of really finding it, and then being able to really surrender to that bigger cause and remove the ego. And I think that's where the really tricky part is, in a society that kind of raised us all to be compared to each other with grades in high school. So it's a matter of kind of forgetting everything we've been taught and joining a cause that we actually feel meaningful. And then that becomes tricky to find in a system that's not really built for that. What I can, just a personal anecdote, I guess I can share to that, is that I am also partially a co-founder of a spiritual community in Portugal, which is it's a string of happenings, honestly. And it was very chaotic. I lived on an abandoned farm for 3 months that we kind of tried to restore. And even though it wasn't perfect, I think if that is kind of done with a lot of kind of willingness of all participants to create a space or a community that lives to more, I guess, different means than society, it is a good way to dedicate a lot of purpose to that. If it opens up a space for a lot more people to kind of at least see a lifestyle that's different from the traditional. However, it also comes, of course, with a lot of sacrifices, and there's a lot of strings attached, and even if you'd say homesteading is a part of freedom, of growing your own food, of not being reliant on anything, there's still so many things that you're reliant on, be it the weather, be it material suppliers. So it's a tricky thing. Yet I think, as a core question for, I guess, then a lot of people in this group, and including myself, would be just really how to find that and what it really is, but how to find it, and how to really say, okay, I'm gonna let it go of everything I know and surrender to that.
Man, beautifully articulated. Like, oh my God, you're playing into like showing in society, like it's pushing us to be more individualized, like hyper individualized. Like, don't rely on anything. Like, if you want food delivered, if you want food, you can get it delivered straight to your door. Put your hand out, take the food. You don't even have to see the person. And it's like, yeah. And having that in all assets of life, in all facets of life, sorry. Like, from that, how do we like connect ourselves, or how do we go into like finding our mission or finding our purpose? And how do we make it more fulfilling? How do we, not just be working to work or chasing freedom just to chase freedom? How do we like combine something into more connection, more meaning and fulfillment? Yeah. I feel like as a society, we're going through that wave. Like, we have super individualized, at least for me, like speaking, I grew up like super just independent and like figuring things out on my own. And I remember like when I was 14, my parents divorced. And right as when I was turning from a boy to a man, I like didn't have any role model or mentor to look up to. And so I like looked on YouTube and I was watching all of these videos on like these influencers or gurus, or trying to see like what Andrew Tate is doing or some sort of BS person. Whereas like looking back at that now, I was like, yeah, I was just trying to make it on my own. And I remember like showing the $200 of ad revenue I got on like my YouTube videos and being like, I can do this. Like I can make this. I can become a YouTuber. Like I was so excited. And then going down that path of committing into pro gaming, and then just having my career flipped when like my team didn't qualify for a tournament. And then I just lost my job. I lost my people, like my team that felt like family. And then I lost my purpose too, because I was like, I quit gaming cold turkey. I was burnt out of it. I was like, I can't pick up the phone anymore. I can't play any games. That's like, that gave me so much free time, but at the same time, I was so lost. And like back to going to try and find like some sort of purpose, I was like chasing all over, like looking externally, like, okay, this person's doing this. Like I can do that. Like I have video editing skills. I'm a jack of all trades. I can, do Photoshop and edit and do all these videography stuff. And so I was just trying to like slap myself onto these other people that I was watching, kind of like a parasocial effect. And yeah, does any of this resonate?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's also something, I feel like that's lost with all these like frameworks and how you get like taught and stuff like that, that you learn to trust your own intuition there. Because ultimately, if you like, that's what's gonna guide you. But if you always let it like dictate from the outside, you're always following these frameworks, and you like take the worldview from that role model or something. You just like copy and pasting it into your own thing. And I think there's a lot of value in like finding ways to get back to your intuition, because everyone has it as a child. Like I would say, like most of us, when we grew up, we have it in the first couple of years. But then once you like go to school, just as Philip mentioned, it's like it slowly gets taken from us if we don't protect it.
Does
How you
anyone?
defi-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
how you define intuition, or what type of intuition you mean?
Sorry, what do you mean? What type of intuition?
Or yeah, like what you define by intuition in that case.
By intuition, I mean like a sense of it's like a sense of telling you what to do, kind of like, because I believe everyone has like an inner compass that will like, if you're able to like to not get influenced by the outside, you can work through pretty much anything.
Mhm.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I was just curious if like you maybe meant like some other meaning under the word, but yeah, I agree. Because maybe over time it gets mixed by society's beliefs and like what society's norms, and then there will be that other voice, like
Yeah.
what you want, and like then it's the reverse of like, but it's always been done this way or something like that. So yeah, but I actually think like maybe people lose intuition mostly because they just do stuff for an end outcome, and like they stop just doing stuff that they like, and it's like because everything becomes for like I do X to get this outcome. It stops being from I'm doing this because I want to do this. And because when people become adults, it's much more, oh, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And like nowadays, a lot of the time just got back to that stage of like just doing random stuff, not for an end outcome. Not because that's the most optimized way to do it or that's the most productive way to do it, just because I want to do it. And there isn't a bigger reason to why I want to do it. I just want to do it. And I realized that the more I do it, the more that soldier, this should be done this way, this should be done this way, voice silences, and more that inner voice becomes louder. Because, kind of this like, which wolf you feed kind of thing. So I don't know if anyone experienced something similar, but like, I guess that's helped me.
Yeah, definitely. Like, what's been something that grows your inner voice? What do you do?
I don't mean like anything specific. It just was like just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff, not trying to, let's say, oh, I want to, I don't know, I'm trying to now find the right example, but it's like, let's say I just want to visit a place, and it's like I don't need to have a reason behind doing that, or I just want to, let's say, get an ice cream, or just go, let's say, ride on a motorcycle or something like that. I don't need to justify to my brain that, oh, but this thing has to be productive. Oh, yes, if I do this activity, that means I'm in a better mood and I will be more productive. I can just do it because I want to do it. And it's like, I don't think anything specific. It's just like, just in general doing this stuff that's like, maybe like can't be logically justified. Because
Right.
maybe it doesn't even seem logical, but mostly also like just stuff that seems like play, because that's the thing with play. Is like play is not productive. Play is just something we do for its own sake, and it's something that's also increases creativity and like helps us, maybe stuff like that.
Super well said. I mean, totally agree. I think that's also that aspect of us being children where we just do things and also aren't attached to anything. If something else comes along that we want to do the moment after, we just immediately drop everything that we've done and just quickly jump on to the next thing without feeling remorse. We're saying, "Oh, I should have finished this," or "No, the soldier, the little Playmobil soldier wasn't in the right position on his tower." So I think it is that of really finding complete enjoyment in the process. I don't know if you guys watched the movie Soul, this Disney movie. I feel like this is one of the best movies that portrays this aspect of play and what it makes us feel. Because in the movie, I think it's like a jazz musician, and every time he plays his instrument, he enters like a different world where it's just like a magical place, and he's not really there, although he's really there. I don't know how to really explain it. Just to be able to have that state more permanently is kind of the goal of creation, I guess, at least in my opinion, because I think it's the feeling that I want out of this, to be able to have that feeling often and have a life where that is also able to sustain me.
Yeah, that's like beautifully put. I have to check out that movie. I remember watching like a trailer of that, but I totally get how it shows kind of like the flow state, right? Getting into the motions and then afterwards just being there, but not really being there because you're on a whole different wavelength. And that gets so exciting because it's play. Like work isn't really work anymore. It's like a lot of people try to optimize like business and life, and then you get down that rabbit hole of trying to see how you could like leverage the most amount of money out of the least amount of time, and then use all of that to fund like your lifestyle. or your assets or whatever you're trying to build or family. And like then it takes like you hate your life here and then having, you know, your fun experiences here. Whereas like finding more alignment into that, as you said, Philip, where you can be playful and also make a living doing so. Okay.
There is also this very nice example that I heard my mentor say once, which is like back to the child example that Philip touched on. Is like when a kid goes on the playground, he doesn't stop and think like, oh, which toy I should play with to get the most optimized happiness out from this experience. He's just like, oh, let's go there. Oh no, I want to go here. No, I want to go here. So just in the moment and just chooses what feels right at that point. Doesn't try to think and optimize everything. And it's kind of it's kind of paradoxical because like once you try to analyze and trying to come up with like the perfect day or like trying to optimize for happiness, you become unhappy. And that's what I found myself is like maybe my biggest problem is just like I saw like try to optimize for freedom and like that's actually because that was the outcome I was optimizing for. It actually made me like not free and not happy. So yeah, I would rather say that like chasing happiness or not happiness, I would rather say like freedom doesn't make me fulfilled because it's like I was doing all these cool activities I wanted, like I literally packed them in one day. And I was like, okay, but is it all there is out there? Like, is that the peak human experience? Like, is that the top? And you know, it's pretty demotivating when you're like, I can't experience better than this. And I was like, and I realized that maybe it's pointless to chase those things. And now what I believe is like maybe the main thing is to have a bigger purpose. Maybe once work, that's the main thing, and rather have these things as like on the side, as like just nice bonuses, but not something one should focus on. Or at least that's my current standpoint on it.
Yeah, it's like happiness and freedom kind of become the second or third order consequence of you chasing a bigger thing or your mission or helping people and connecting. Right?
Yeah. Or at least that's the goal, because till now I had to realize that I was kind of like working to get to a goal. And then I get to a goal and then I'm like, okay, but now what? And it's like, it's better to make the process the goal, not some outcome, because like there is also a lot of studies around it that's like, let's say when athletes like win like a championship, they become depressed because now what? And I think it's a very interesting thing because I got there and like it's first really weird because then what to work towards, and like then it feels like you have this loss of purpose.
Yeah, and that becomes so painful, right? Like the world closes in on you, sort of, and you're at like this crisis of, well, like shit, like what should I actually be doing? And then you have to start from like zero, which is so difficult because you've been building up all these skills and stat points and armor and all of this stuff, and then you realize like shit, like I need to restart, and like you just have bare clothing, no levels, no nothing, and you got to restart.
Yeah, I mean, if one decides to go to a different direction,
yeah.
But like another view on it is like maybe till then it was all about like one, like it was about, I heard this saying that like your purpose, let's say at the start of your entrepreneurial journey, should be to get yourself out of a bad situation. It's like it's very hard to believe that, oh, I want to change the world or I want to help 10 million people or reform education. It's like if you're in the bad situation and you can't pay the bills, it can't think that big. But once you get yourself out from the survivor state, maybe we can start asking these bigger questions of like, what, like, maybe I want to help others get to my current position, or stuff like that.
100%. Yeah. Like you can't think clearly if you have like debt and you have to like pay the bills and you're not able to do that. Like it becomes so challenging because everything goes into like the scarcity mindset. Like, oh shit, am I gonna like be able to pay the bills? Like for me, even like I felt that in the beginning of last year with my girlfriend. I was like, oh shit, like if I don't make enough money, will she like leave? And I was like, oh my God, like that made me over engineer everything, like just going down bullshit rabbit holes of like wasting my time. Yeah, I totally feel that. Totally feel that. And like going back to like finding this mission or kind of operating out of like fear versus operating out of love and courage, like that's where you have to kind of live that to kind of see the difference between the two, I feel like. And for me, like specifically, like I was operating out of fear for a long time. And then until I like decided like I'm 100% going down this entrepreneurial journey and I'm taking out my Roth IRA, my assets, my investments. And I was like, I'm committing to this journey and I'm going to give myself this runway to be able to put out into the world and kind of go at this higher frequency. And that led me to reconnect with my past. And like I was talking to my girlfriend and going on dialogue with her of like, why am I like so passionate about like having people or artists or creatives and like helping them share their vision or helping them share their art or their music or their voice. And I like remember like connecting it back when I was traveling. I was like super isolated, super lonely. And I was traveling Europe, kind of just directionless. And I went to this Eden concert, like my favorite artist back from middle school. He was playing in Munich. And I remember watching him and like there was a huge line and or before the event happened, there was a huge line and I met these two people, these German people, and they spoke English and like I reconnected. Whereas before the last 5 months, I was basically alone in a Romanian city going to the gym every day. And that was pretty much it. And I remember like connecting with these people and going to the concert and it being just so beautiful and so transformative that it like changed my perspective on life. And it allowed me to like connect with other people and allowed me to have this like let go mentality of all of this like isolation that I felt. And then I traveled like Europe and I like went to Portugal to meet one of my best friends. And like in Porto, I met my girlfriend and I've been with her since in France. And it's been like such a transformational experience. And that result, like that realization only came from like months and months later, like last week pretty much, and just talking with my girlfriend and getting on dialogue. And like that, I think, is operating out of love, where the mission is straight from love, straight from that connection, straight from that transformation that I felt and that I want other people to feel as well. And it's more of connection. It's more of out of love and courage. Versus before I was operating out of fear. I was like, fuck, like I need to make these videos to try and make money and try and help brand production, these different brands. And I was like, it's not it. I was like so unaligned to what I could have been.
So I guess I can add the comment that my experience is a bit different because the guys kind of complained that they got too much freedom, and I have quite the opposite. Like my days are packed with duties. It's either work or duties with kids. So basically, if I got something creative to do, I got one shot. So even if it's bad, I have to accept it because it was just one shot, and I was kind of perfectionist before, but now I'm accepting if there is a mistake, something is not as I wanted, but yeah, I have to accept it because the only resource I miss is time. So probably that's why I'm dropping from work, to have more time, more freedom. Then maybe I would have the same realization that Ben have, that it's too much freedom, but I guess I can find some purpose and don't complain that I got too much freedom. Like I got 1 billion ideas which I cannot do now because I'm basically booked. I wake up and I got plenty of stuff to do, and then I got like 1 hour of free time in the evening when everybody's already sleeping. So it's like totally different experience at the moment.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Sounds like you have so much under your belt. You have to take care of kids. You got your work going on. You got one shot on this creative thing. And like any big projects, you're not even able to envision because you don't have enough time for that.
Yeah, I usually plan like these creative things, like because I have to plan it, because then I know I would have like 1 hour to do it. So it's usually planned, but sometimes it's like, camera was not charged, something was not prepared, like someone moved the camera and I have to set it up from scratch. So it's pain in the butt, and it's totally different. I guess totally different perspective than for example, Ben have, like he said, like he got too much of freedom. So I got it totally opposite at the moment.
Yeah, we got
I
both
kind of
extremes.
shifting to that state to have more freedom and more time usually.
Yeah, it sounds like Ben's on one extreme, Sukash is on the other end.
Yeah, seems so.
Sukash, what do you want to do if you had all the time in the world?
Hard to say. I mean, for example, I got woodworking shop in my second garage, and I haven't been there for 3 years because I don't have time to do it. I got a list of projects I can do there, and they are not as important as other stuff, so they are pushed away. I'm doing some creative stuff every Wednesday because I arrange my work that way that I don't work Wednesdays. But of course, my wife finds some other activities to do every Wednesday, so it's already limited. But like, I could find something to do when I wake up. I would already have something to do. It would be either. I also like traveling without a purpose, like where I live. We live here for 10 years and we don't know the surrounding places because we haven't got that much time to see it. So lately I'm like traveling without the purpose, seeing places I like. For example, visit small towns because they got like some charm to them. And I have to go there, just see the people, which other see this place, and move to another place and come back home and do the stuff I have to do. But basically, I know that I could fill my time with the activities I would like to do from morning till evening without a problem. But maybe there would be a day that I would complain that I have too much freedom and I don't know what to do. But I kind of doubt it. Well, generally for me, the work takes the most time. It's like 8 hours a day. Sure, I can do it faster and use some time for something else, but usually it's like I'm expected to be there for 8 hours, and if I'm not, then someone is complaining, even though I've done everything. Yeah, so that's kind of.
Yeah, it's like the system kind of squishes you into this 2D framework where you have to be at 8 hours versus like you can do it in like 5.
And it is kind of annoying because there's the corporate work and people are wasting each other's time, like creating a 1 hour call and there is nothing out of this call. They're just talking, and there is nothing productive. So for example, today I've been on 5 hours of calls and there was for me, there was nothing productive out of it.
Wow.
Maybe at the end there would be something. Maybe something would create something, but sometimes the 1 hour call could be an email, and that's really a nice thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sometimes kind of surprised how these corporates even function if there is so much time wasted there. So because the time is this most valuable resource they got.
Yeah, it's crazy. I recently watched a lecture about bullshit jobs where there was a guy, I think he's an economist, and he spoke to a lot of different people in different fields, and he just asked a sample group, if they think their job is actually meaningful, and only about half said yeah it is, and the other ones weren't sure, just straight up said no. And I think it's so weird how we live in this time-based economy where everyone is selling off their time, and it seemingly doesn't even have any reason. Sometimes you're like it's the sublet company of a sublet company that does a task that the first company could easily achieve by their own. So it's really bizarre. And I mean, the only thing I guess I could offer as an advice is to maybe then see if there's a job that better fits your capabilities or time, or if there's a way for you to see if perhaps the experiences, if you are a jack of all trades, where you find a type of work that more aligns to that which you want to do.
I guess I'm heading towards that next year. Like I got some savings, and I would try to do something. At least try to do something to not waste that much time on something.
Łukasz, what are you doing specifically? You said you're a jack of all trades and you produce videos, but can you go more into that? I'm curious. And how long have you been doing that for?
So I got on YouTube, I got few channels, but some channels were not updated for 2 years or something. And one of my channels, which is kind of active, is gaffer stuff, lighting, and some camera work. So sometimes I do random stuff there, like reviewing some new camera, and YouTube doesn't like it if you got several topics on the channel, and also that's why I got a few channels to not mix the topics. But I'm just doing that more for fun and to learn stuff, for example, video production and lighting stuff. So I'm doing that mostly for myself, and then I'm sharing that, and some people are enjoying that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And are you doing that as for the job, for the 9 to 5?
No, because my job is IT, so it's totally unrelated. Yeah, it's one tech channel, so there is all this stuff related to cameras, and I got some random channels because I created them because I woke up and I got an idea. Okay, I would create a cooking channel, so I created something. So I created 3 videos, and then I haven't got time to follow up, so it's just there. I know I can create this, but I need time. Yeah, so.
Do you have a whole bunch of experience in woodworking? Why do you have this big shop with a whole bunch of machinery that's super expensive?
I was watching YouTube and I was enjoying because that's the creative. That's the opposite of my work. I don't feel my work is creative because I create either Excel files or documents. So I don't see this as creative thing. And as a man, probably I like to create stuff. And in the shop, I created some furniture for the home, like cutting boards, furniture for kids. And that was really fulfilling. And so that was different kind of creative. So yeah, that's that you can be a creative on YouTube creating content, but you can also create stuff and you can also create content about it. There are a lot of woodworking channels which are really successful, and also they build big communities because people also want to create, and then they learn. I actually learned woodworking from YouTube. It was purely from YouTube.
That's awesome.
And I'm kind of happy I still have my 10 fingers.
Yeah, I have a few family members who have kind of chopped fingers. So it can get dangerous, but it sounds like you lit up when you started talking about woodworking. Like, it sounds like it was super fulfilling for you, and you were able to make stuff for your kids and boards and furniture and like all of this knowledge from just learning it on yourself via YouTube. And
Yeah,
you
I would
have,
also, for example, like to learn welding. It's like that you can actually, if you know how to weld, you can repair anything at home or at homestead, and it's very useful. But you have to have time to learn, and you have to have resources to buy at least some medium quality welder.
yeah, like I would love to get into welding, but I just don't have the area for it. I never even touched it. So like
It's
that,
quite kind of dangerous also because of the fumes mostly.
mm,
So you have to either do it outside or you have to create the vent systems. And again, this is the resources. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, there's something there. You like gaffer, lighting, cameras, all this tech, kind of tinkering with a whole bunch of stuff, learning a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube. I feel like a lot of people, especially like including me, like I learn a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube and then I kind of try and apply it. Or I mean, most of the time, honestly, it just goes into the knowledge bucket and I never use it. But it sounds like for woodworking and for welding and camera stuff, sounds like Swikash, there's something there.
Yeah. The problem is that I don't have an idea at the moment. I mean, maybe I have a small idea for the video stuff, like creating a really small one man band video production for small companies, because they want content for social media usually, and I can deliver that, but not sure I'm suited for searching for clients. I'm not so sure, but I can always be part of the agency and they would hire me to do stuff. But then it's again a bit corporate and might be like that they would just push me into the stuff 8 hours a day, and it would be the same thing.
Yeah.
I have to avoid. So
Yep. How about making the videos for yourself?
yeah, I also thought about it. So I'm just making them for fun at the moment. It's like I'm not even monetized on YouTube. My channels are really small, but some companies already reach out like, oh, look, we got this gear, that gear, but it's still you're working with a big corporate, and you kind of have to deal with the corporate bullshit, because most of these companies still it's a big corporate, and the rules they operate are really strange. So
Yeah, it's like creating content has become the new 9 to 5.
yeah. Some people, yes, and also these big companies use creators as basically marketing departments.
Mm-hmm.
They utilizing people on YouTube, and some channels. I stopped watching some channels because they were basically advertisements, not content anymore. It was just pure advertisements. So I don't want to be the person like that. So I'm kind of avoiding that. I mean, I probably too burnout regarding the IT topics, like, and it is also kind of hard market, the IT at the moment, because there are so many new technologies you have to learn, and expectation is that you know all the newest technologies, and they change every half year, and you learn something, and within 6 months it's obsolete, and they say, oh, you have to learn this new thing, it's now hyped, and can you learn it for next month, and they expect you are experienced, and you get 10 years of experience in the technology, which is 2 years old. So it is, we got a joke that we, for example, someone put in his resume that got 10 years of experience, and they ask him, look, but you work only 3 years there. Yes, but this with overtime, so it is triple the experience.
Oh man, damn.
And
That's
that's
so
the
real.
expectation.
Yeah. Damn. I have a question. Why did you start like a YouTube channel on like gaffing and lighting and cameras?
I guess I wanted to be better in creating videos. So basically, I was filming something, trying new cameras, and sometimes I was like the victim of hype. Like there was a new Blackmagic camera, and I was, oh, I have to get this camera. I would be better if I got this camera, which is bullshit. But I actually learned that using the new cameras that I don't need any new gear. I can be better, basically trying to do it different ways and what is more important is lighting than cameras. So lately I'm in lighting and got some kind of experience there.
Yeah. How long have you been like involved in making videos and like cameras?
4 years, I guess it started during the pandemic, I would say. So like 2020. But it's also slow paced because I don't have that much time to spend every hour with the cameras and the gear. So this again, like I got half a day during weekends and half a day each Wednesday or every second Wednesday. So there's not much time. But
Gotcha.
still, if you spend an hour a week at some activity, after a year you are better than 95% of population in that subject.
Yeah, 100%. It's like the small things add up. But yeah, I'm seeing this theme in this conversation where it's finding what you want to do and then kind of making a living and having meaning and fulfillment come out of that as well, or work alongside that as well. Does that resonate?
At least with me.
And kind of getting business and life aligned, like artistry business aligned, so that we can, not get stuck in this 9 to 5 or not get stuck in chasing freedom or happiness, but instead chasing something more deep, something that is more fulfilling, something that is more like a mission. And I think Philip alluded to this a little bit, where like finding it and kind of like being surrounded by or surrendering the ego and the comparison that society has put ourselves onto us. And society in general has made us so individualized, like hyper individualized for me, for example. And the thing that has pushed me to find things more fulfilling, kind of finding my thing and going deeper into that, has been to ask for help. And that was in the form of like betting on myself by getting help. Because up until this time, I spent all this time like looking on YouTube, like figuring it out, and I would go down rabbit holes. And like recently, I decided to like on this entrepreneurial journey that I was like, I can't do it alone. And that like was so humbling and like painful. And I was like, fuck, like I've been able to like figure most things out. I did esports, I did brand production. I got through college. Like I didn't have to pay for, I actually got paid to go to college. Like not a lot of people do that. And like, I felt like I was superior, but then like going into this entrepreneurial journey, it was like, shit, I can't figure this out. And maybe I can in 2 or 3 years, but like I want it to be more optimized. I want it to be quicker. And that journey led me down like asking for help and like getting mentorship. And that has helped me so much because that has enabled me to have like a mirror who there's like equal gratitude of seeing what is behind like the operating system and the stuff that got me to where I am today. And from that, kind of figuring out what like my mission was. And as I alluded to before, where I was talking with my girlfriend, and that experience of like being at that concert in Munich and like that transformational experience from all the loneliness I had before to reconnecting with people, that like from that love of connection and from that love of music and artistry, and like seeing that was like so mind-blowing to me, and that like fuels me and like my mission to try and help people. And like if more people shared their depth and divinity, the world would be a better place and more beautiful. And that's kind of what I landed on. And that has been like my journey of kind of trying to combine together like the things that I actually want to be doing. And like I grew up on YouTube, grew up wanting to post videos and, you know, becoming an influencer. And so throughout that journey, I've like learned to really enjoy making videos. Before I was like really stuck in perfectionism, but my way of expressing is like through video. And so I kind of went back onto that as the mechanism to be able to express how I think and how I feel. And that's been the thing that I enjoy doing and what I want to be doing. And it turns meaningful when I get onto dialogues with people and like try and share what I've learned, like my lived experience, as well as like the information that I've learned and the wisdom that I've learned, and that I'm turning into lived conviction as well. And so that's kind of how I found my mission. And like I'm sure it's going to evolve over time, but I've been sowing these seeds for a long time, and like now they're starting to bloom, and it's like beautiful to see that. And yeah, that's how I've turned like all of this work, all of this busy work, all of this expression, kind of tying it back into like my expression and connecting with people and trying to share the work. All right, Nathan, have a nice day. But yeah.
Yeah, it's always kind of a balance act to try and see what the meaning brings for the purpose that we have. I think, you know, I've also, through doing tarot sessions with people, I guess that's also like a way to do one-on-one coaching, you know, and I've done that for some time. Yet it just feels like, at least for me in the stage that I am, it would be kind of cool to, of course, and of course, it's cool to have that connection with people and help them on their path. And I think there's a lot of fulfillment and purpose in that. Yet I think, especially in this individual individual society words, it's great to kind of be able to look at society as a whole and try to see to make an impact. Yet that also maybe savior complex to just try and see like, oh, how can I save the world? You know, I think that's also the wrong thing. It's about those small actions and the way that we live our lives. And if that's through one-on-one coaching, if that's through courses, if that's through even online learning, you know, to try to teach people to get to the point that we're at in life, I think all of those can be really great. I do want to be part of something bigger, and I think that comes from these individual actions. Yet finding a way to really do it in a unique fashion that also allows for personal connection that's not necessarily based on money, that's where it becomes tricky. Because I'd love to be able to help so much people as I can, and it's important to charge money for that as well. Yet at the same time, I feel like that's also a step in the wrong direction if we really want change. And that's the ironic thing about this. So of course there needs to be a self-sustainment involved into our work and the stuff that we do. And this world also allows for many great things that we can get with money only as of yet. Just I want to believe in a world where that isn't necessarily necessary, and we all are able to help and do so selflessly. Yet it is up to that point. It is, of course, important to find a way where we can feel that purpose and passion every single day of doing small acts of kindness that we're able to sustain ourselves with. And I think finding that or surrendering to a bigger movement is kind of, at least what I find myself kind of striving to find or discover for me, so that I can live a beautiful life with that which I have, yet also really feel that it helps people directly and not just through a screen, which is a big thing too. because I don't think that's necessarily helpful. Like, you can create as much great inspirational content, yet at least for myself, the best videos I watch are those that get me off the platform. And that goes to show, you know.
Damn, yeah, there's so much there. And like you were talking about one-on-one coaching, but you want to be part of something bigger and like help on a bigger scene. But also like the personal connection, the money kind of gets tricky, right? It gets kind of ooey, you know, with these courses, like what am I getting? Or with these one-on-one, like what is the transformation? Like, can you help me? Or it's like gets so tricky and the relationship kind of gets, you know, tainted in a way, right? And like you said something about like the change won't be affected or will get like the change won't happen because you're charging money.
No, I think money is a very important thing if there's interchange. I also saw that in tarot. In the beginning, I did it for free, just for that exact reason, because I didn't want to charge people. I just wanted to help them,
Mm-hmm.
especially because I realized that there were some real issues there. And yet, I also realized how much that drained me by not charging, by not being like. I mean, I guess you can read into this spiritually, by that energy exchange. And if we look at money from that standpoint of being a currency, or current, then it becomes obvious that needs to be that exchange of energy in order for it to really prosper and be well for both parties. Yet I do think that it'd just be generally nicer if that wouldn't necessarily need to be the case. Yet you can't bend the rules of the universe, I guess. So this is just me taking it to a meta perspective. Maybe that's also not the or metaphysical perspective, rather. I don't think that's necessarily helpful for creative purposes. So yeah, I think it's just finding a way to help people genuinely, charging fair prices, and trying to see, okay, how can we as a society move to a place that maybe goes into the right direction again.
Yeah, sounded like you were taking on a big mission when you charged for free, and then you got everyone with all of their baggage and kind of trauma dumping, and that left you drained. And different returns, like return on investment, return on like energy. There are different like returns, and a lot of the time, most people like think of return on investment, right? You invest $500 or $5,000, and you're supposed to get 10x whatever, and like to a certain degree, that holds up in investments. But also, some people are searching for community. Some people are looking for that return on community, or looking for a return on X. I don't know, fulfillment, like all of these different things that people attribute value to that isn't just money. And so, yeah, that gets really interesting, because if you're charging free, or if you're doing pro bono, then you're going to be attracting people that, you know, will try to take advantage of that if there's that energy going across. And so how do you develop, or how do you charge a fair price so that you get people who are on a frequency that you like to be on as well, and that it becomes productive and there's actual transformation that happens, right?
Exactly. I mean, I see so many people that are like in the same space that I move in when it comes to a social media niche, that just charge thousands of euros for one-on-one sessions or courses. And of course, I think you also get what you give in an extent. You know, if people pay 1,000 euros for a course, they're gonna take that value. They're gonna value that a lot higher than if you charge 40 bucks, right? Just does that justify selling that course at 1,000 bucks? That's the question, because the consumer does get more out of it. Just from a standpoint, I feel like it's also a bit strange to do that, knowing that you also exclude a lot of people that don't have the financials right now that would necessarily need it, right? It's kind of like the problem I have with credits from banks. Rich people, they get all types of credits they want, but people that actually need the money, they don't get shit. So, I feel like by doing something similar, it quickly runs into the same problem that I would then be a part of. And so fixing that becomes more a systemic issue rather than an individualistic. And that's when it becomes tricky.
Yeah, and actually that was my comment, that people don't value free stuff. Even if your sessions were really great, they think they don't find value in that. They would think that, oh, there is a course which is much more expensive, is for sure better, even though if your course is better. And for example, great example is here in Poland where I live, that government is sponsoring the psychotherapy for people which cannot afford. And I spoken with these therapists, and they said that most of these sessions are useless because it's for free, and these people just don't have any benefits because they don't care, because it was for free. And if you pay for psychotherapy, then you are engaged and you got something out of it. And that's really weird, because it seems that the human nature, or maybe that's the society that they created this, that you have to put a price tag on something to be valuable, which is also kind of really weird and sad.
It is.
Yeah, you listen with your money. And like the difference between pro bono work and like true pro bono work, like free work, is like you knowing your value. If you don't know your value, then like you start giving things away for free, you start attracting like the wrong people. Versus like free, when you know your value, then it comes from like an outflow of like expression, of seeing what the dialogue, like 1 + 1 turns into infinity instead of 2. Like, and before that, you kind of have to go from 0 to 1 when you're expressing yourself, when you're creating. And that expression has to like really be clear, and you have to know who you are in order to, when you put it out onto social media, or when you put it out into the world, there's that mirror effect where you attract the person that you are. And so there are like so many variables into, especially when you like include money with it, there are so many variables of getting it super complicated. And so there are so many avenues that you go down on and overcomplicate stuff where it could be a lot simpler. But yeah, Philip, like if we double click on you, for example, like you have this big social media following. Of course, you didn't get money from the TikTok stuff because your stuff was registered in Denmark, right? But you still have like basically a click magnet. You have a whole bunch of people tuning in and people that are interested in your work and seeing what you do. Like, I'm sure there are people there who would love to get into proximity with you and like dive deeper into like sharing and going deeper into those conversations.
For sure. I think, I guess that's also part of the reason I find myself in this position of kind of being in the waiting position. Because like I said before, there are bigger projects that I'm currently working on that is connected to my social media. However, the social media in itself is, and I don't know if it's because of the subjects that I speak about, I don't want to say it's censored or it's blacklisted, just there is a regard if you share something that's kind of saying, hey, maybe your ancient history is not as we were taught in school. There's a certain incentive, perhaps, to think that. However, it is, I pour a lot of effort into running up this channel in the past 3 years. Yet I've reached a point where still, like, the numbers don't really make any sense to that amount of effort that I put in. So, for example, I think my TikTok account is like 300,000 followers, right? if I post a TikTok, like maybe like right now, maybe like 2,000 people see it. If I'm on Instagram, right, I have like I think close to 70,000 followers on there. I post a story and like 400 people see it. It's it's really weird. So that also makes me think like I really don't want to create on social media anymore. Like YouTube, maybe I never really tried out that much, but just it's strange how, and that's also goes back to like the content hamster wheel, where it is okay, you know, now I've poured 3 years of energy into this one project and it's growing into different fruits, for example with the documentary and other things. Yet if I'm just talking about content in itself, I feel like it's so unrewarding. You know, I think the amount of people that really comfortably live off of content, and I know it's possible, you know, there's so many strings attached to that whole process, and it's so dependent on the algorithm and on things that aren't necessarily in our hand totally, even though I would say I completely, like, not completely, but I didn't put as much effort into my videos as I once did. um just still, I think it is a way to find making what you love rather than focusing on the outcome. It's like what we talked about in the beginning, loving the process instead of the outcome. Um, but yeah, but I guess that's just been the process for me. And I know that I can theoretically leverage the audience that I have, you know, theoretically. Yet if you have a big number, yet you still feel like there's not a personal connection or like a reach to that amount of people, then it becomes a number on a screen. And I've realized that. And so I think at this point in my life, there is this desire to, you know, of course, keep moving in that direction, but like on a different level, like documentary, film, television, where this whole thing is still more valuable rather than, you know, pouring hours into a short form video that then potentially, you know, it's still great if it reaches like the people that it reaches, and I do believe in the purpose of that being the case. Yet it's also just a bit unrewarding given the work that I've done in the past.
Yeah, I think you're speaking to a universal here, where there's so many influencers, so many big channels with like big numbers, but then in reality, like they're not making like any sizable income. And it's all the like numbers, and then like what does it mean? Like what is it? What are these likes? Why are people commenting nice or cool shot or you should do this better? It's like then there's hate comments too. It's like like what? I wasn't expecting this.
And getting canceled, man, that's also something. I don't know if you guys have ever been through that. I mean, that's low-key kind of funny, like in hindsight. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things on social media, and I feel like I also, like I said in the beginning, I don't want to contribute to feeding the beast anymore. I think YouTube is a bit better because it's less algorithmic in a sense that you just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Still kind of the same beast though, you know, but so is every form of entertainment in a way, even if it contains value. And I enjoy it. I enjoy watching it. So I guess, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I don't know. I guess if you think too much about, which I guess is the position that I'm in, think too much about the system and how to kind of pull it away from its rotten core and try to grow a new sapling, then of course there's going to be difficulties in that process. I am very grateful, and there are a lot of loyal fans that I do have, or followers. Um, it's just, I guess, my own mindset on how I view it and how I view social media content as a whole that makes it difficult for me, because I've lost the sense of purpose and also passion in the process that I once had, which makes it also difficult because now I know, and that's also another thing. If I were to go back to my old content and do it the same way that I used to do, I know how to make viral videos now, and I know how to talk about these subjects to get garner interest, and just there's a voice in me that doesn't necessarily want to do that type of style anymore. So because I've become burned out of that specific, I guess, content. And I also don't necessarily feel like trying to funnel or try to sell something to anyone, because that's like, yeah, of course I want to make a living and be sustained in what I do. Just I don't necessarily want to just push. It's like the same thing that Sukush said before, like of the idea of influencers becoming just straight advertisers. I don't want to just always say like, oh man, buy this product and buy my merch and go buy this course and let's go have a one-on-one coaching. I know it would provide people value, just to an extent of like, I don't know if I want to constantly sell people, because I feel like that's part of the issue.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same
But don't-
on the topic, that on this pushing, especially pushing people to buy something which they necessarily not need, but they think they need it. And I actually been trapped into this too, because someone told me that I need this piece of gear to be better, and then I avoid such topics, or I sometimes tell the opposite, that you don't need this to be good, but that's the item. I got this item, and the item can do this and this, but you don't need this, and I don't push. And I kind of understand, it's for me it's like evil to like push people to buy stuff they don't need. So I kind of understand that stance.
Yeah, definitely. And when you go into constantly selling people like a big group, then it's like, where is the value even? If it's like not even like, it's the product becomes so away from like the essence of the actual true value.
A lot of it for me had to do with also just big lifestyle changes, and not being in the same, because I used to have a studio for myself, like a really fast computer, and that made editing, of course, like also a lot easier. And then I started just traveling around because I just enjoyed that more. So it's also, of course, like a goal of like what type of lifestyle that we want to live with the content we would want to create. Because at the end of the day, like also with the videos that I do now, I am at a point where I'm not like, oh, I need those million views on my videos, right? I have the internal validation and enjoy the videos that I do make. So I'm currently at a point, like I said before, it's like a waiting period of like until the bigger thing starts. And so it's not necessarily about finding, I guess, the type of content or changing it around. For me, it's more so of kind of seeing what else there is, or what inner spark that I can light within me, to see what value I can provide that is also going in a direction that shifts the bigger picture. And I completely agree. I think the way you said we have so many real people that watch our content, and even from all the messages that I've gotten over the years, it's so inspiring to see what people write to me, and how videos change their viewpoints and made them follow the spiritual path, for example. And also meeting those people in public randomly was also something that already happened to me, and I feel so blessed that did happen. Just being approached in a random Portuguese bar. I mean, that's amazing. That's the nature of it, And still, I think with lifestyle changes also come these wishes of like, okay, yeah, I want to be free. I want to travel. I want to hike up mountains, and still I want to be able to live life, and finding a way to do it. It's still though, I really appreciate your perspective, because it also, it's important to shine light on something that perhaps we also want to avoid sometimes, and of course there can be so many different viewpoints onto why things changed, or what can be made different. Just, I think these types of conversations, or like, also thank you, Dominic, for opening a space that kind of allows this, is real beneficial to kind of elevate and look at your own journey from a bird's eye view, which is also something that in the individualistic society that we have, needs to happen more often, to be able to share our story and get output and help each other out. I think that's the way to move forward, at least creatively. I would say in the general though, freedom of the system in a way, and trying to make it so that it opens up a door for others. That's kind of what I want to do right now. And we'll see how we get there.
Yeah, and you do that by like shifting the movement. You do it by one at a time, going deep into those conversations that need to be held. And for people that, like, for example, in the beginning, you don't have to like go to the bottom denominator of people who are trauma dumping. Like you saw that and you didn't like it in your free like live streaming, for example. But this season of your life, if you want to go deeper into your own path and also like help people, then you can sign people up with batteries included. That people, like people who are already down that spiritual path or the path that you're going down on as well, and kind of see if you could provide value and go deeper into those experiences and not like charging a small price for that. That way there's a shared gratitude. There's a, yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. I think, yeah, there's so many interesting books on money too. And I think one concept that I've read a lot is that making money is always, or what you should do is kind of giving at least 10% to either a church or to a beneficiary organization. It doesn't need to be any religious thing. I just feel like, if I hear it like that, maybe that's one way where it would be able to supply to a higher good as well, where you immediately say like, okay, I'll charge a higher price, but what I do with the money goes to a charity that of course has value. Just yeah, it's a balance act, because I think especially in the times we live in, you're charging people a lot of money is, you know.
I mean, what you do with your money is your business. Like you can do it however, you can put it wherever you want. But what do you mean? Like you said, like, what do I know?
I would say like, if I want to have the systematic change, is charging people a lot of money the answer?
I think it would be the beginning.
To charge people a lot of money?
Yeah, because then you have people who are deeply committed on the journey who aren't going to half-ass whatever advice you're going to give them or whatever essence that comes from the dialogue or whatever product that you're doing. That way, the first group of people, 1 to 5, 5 to 15, those people have had a deep transformation in their life because of your close proximity and your close work associated with them. And that trickle down effect, like it's a ripple, that there's second to third order consequences that you don't see, but longer term, you see them having different connections and reiterating their relationships with other people and their families and their life, and maybe finding more alignment in business and getting stuck or getting out from burnout and finding things that they're what they want to be doing and like finding deeper passion in that. And I think to have that big movement happen, you first need to show that and have that happen to one person.
Yeah, I mean, in general, you're right. I would just say I wouldn't want to make it exclusive to those with money. And that's the issue with that, right? It's like the bank thing where I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to give like a rich person a huge credit. I'd rather just help someone else out that needs it. And that's it's a balance. But I do see, I think by starting off like high price, there can be a way to trickle it down or maybe do free things in the future when there's the living and the freedom thing kind of secured by other means. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a way to kind of use this waiting period to build up something that can create that sort of a value.
Yeah, and like the free stuff. Oh, sorry. I just want to add this last point and then you can go.
Okay.
To add to that, for like the free stuff or the people who don't want to pay for this higher ticket thing, like you can show and like just record everything and document everything and just put it on your YouTube channel or put it on your Instagram or however, and just show the work and just be close to that work. And that way people, for example, for me, I had so much transformation happen to me from just watching these healthy gamer videos. Like I grew up gaming. I like turned it into a profession. And when COVID hit, I lost that. And I just got so lost and I didn't even know how to feel my emotions. So I just felt anger and I just felt lonely and resentment. And I didn't know how to act on that. And I like broke my phone. Like in the past, I also broke my Game Boy. Like I just didn't know how to control it. And I thought it was something wrong with me. But in reality, after watching these conversations on YouTube, these like 2-hour long dialogues with a psychiatrist and a gamer, and that dialogue, and me putting my shoes or myself in their shoes and just seeing how I would answer those questions, like that impacted me so much. And that's why I have so much conviction of getting on these deep conversations, these deep dialogues, and then sharing that to the world and seeing what people resonate with that and seeing how transformational that is. And yeah, in order to do that, you need to go at this high frequency. You can't like go at it from this low BS, broad stroke. You need to have like a curated set of people and like for it to be like engaging for you and for it to not be so draining. And so that's why I say find people with batteries included who aren't going to trauma dump on you. And then you're going to be left with the lack of emotions, or not lack of emotions, but so much emotions. And yeah, of course there's like boundaries you have to set, but having those initial conditions and those initial first 1 to 5, like they're so impactful for you to go forward into this bigger mission that it seems like you really want to go down on.
Yeah. I appreciate the value and insight, of course. And I think making this, of course, there's like a vulnerable aspect to this whole process, and also like making it public and going down this path. I think also it's also an interesting position if you put yourself as the guru or like the teacher. Yet it's also something that the best ones never stop learning. So I'll see. I really appreciate the insight, and I'll see what I can do with all of the great impressions that I gathered from this dialogue, I guess.
Something to add to the previous point is that it seems it seems like you have some like limiting beliefs around selling and this idea of selling high ticket, but also on the other note, it's like looking at it as if that process would take away from the what sharing with the audience thing. But I actually think it's actually the opposite, because if you getting close with people and the more coaching calls you take, the deeper understanding you have of your niche and the deeper understanding you have of their biggest problem. And if you take 10 coaching calls, there will be patterns emerging. As in this call, there has been patterns emerging. And after it, you can make more better content that is actually directed and are like more valuable towards your ideal customers. And practically so, because you do the paid stuff, that's downstream will create better free stuff, because first you know what are the biggest problems, so what you should talk about, and secondly you will just get better at solving those problems. So there is that free element, plus on the middle of it, over time, as you, let's say, if you choose to do coaching, you will probably the same thing will come up, so you end up creating resources, and you can put those resources into a course, and you can sell that course to much cheaper than to the one-on-one support. So it creates more accessible information for the normal people. It also helps change few people's life who pay for coaching. Plus it's also, because of the coaching, it will create better free stuff, because now you have a deeper understanding of the niche and its problems.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
sometimes like to view paid stuff as something that takes away from the free stuff. But what if it can be worked the other way, which is like it can make the free stuff better? An interesting thought exercise to maybe run through while monetizing.
Yeah. Thank you for that as well.
100%. Because when you get on these conversations with people who are paying you like a big chunk of money, quote unquote, there's this shared gratitude. There's this shared, like, they're going to tell you if like something's wrong, or if, you know, something is not what they expected. Like, they're going to give you valuable feedback. Whereas if you're doing it for free, or if you're charging $50 or $500 or whatever, like, they're like, oh, okay, like, I'm happy with this. Or, well, actually, if you charge a low price, there might be a lot of like criticism and feedback. But it might be the wrong inputs, and usually it is. And with those higher engagements, that's where the real problems arise. And that's where you can get into like the deeper questions that like are meaningful and will actually lead to transformation. Whereas if it's like a lower price thing, then, you know, things might be going in circles of like not actually addressing the true problem. Because then there's also like the addressing of like, oh, like I should be charging more, like all of this stuff. And then it's like you don't get to the essence, or you don't get to that value.
Yeah. Also a good point. Yeah, I think this session certainly gives me a lot of like things to kind of view and see what I can do, which is kind of also like exactly what I kind of hoped for, and kind of fill the waiting period of the content, like the bigger content journey, with like other meaningful personal things. So yeah, I'll write some notes for a sec, because otherwise I'm forgetting everything. But I really appreciate the input.
Do you currently monetize somehow, Dominic? Because I always see you talk about this idea of like charging high ticket, and it's like a recurring theme in your theories. I'm just curious, like, are you currently like applying that to business, or like what you're doing on the business side of things?
Yeah, so the last few videos, I was like, I had conviction of the idea of the wisdom. However, I don't have the lived conviction, and that prompted me to reevaluate the content that I wouldn't be making. And I went back into going more like story based and out of the lived conviction that I kind of showed on this call. And I've been like trying to edit together that right now. And for the like stuff that I posted on my YouTube channel, like the last 3 episodes, of course there's like my taste with it and the colors and all that stuff. But the information disregarding the story was out of conviction, but not lived conviction. And so I am not currently monetizing with anybody right now. And the main thing about that is I have this long road of like 2 years of not having to like make money, because I took out like my Roth IRA and I decided on going on this path. And so I'm kind of just seeing where this takes me, and kind of like I'm at the beginning stages of all of this. And for the first 3 episodes that I made for this content, or this related to this content of like aligning business and art, it's out of conviction for like the wisdom. However, it's not out of lived conviction, because I haven't actually charged that price. And so there's a part of me that is like, oh, like there's a part of me that has to justify when people are like, oh, charge 6,000. Like, I'm like, yeah, you should charge 6,000 X for XXX reason. Whereas if I had that lived conviction of like actually having like a client or multiple, then I would just be like, yeah, like charge 6,000 or charge 10,000 or charge 20. Like, your inherent value is there. And so that's been my journey. I'm like at the beginning stages of all of this, and I'm like eager to get on conversations and see what questions arise and see what kind of like things people are doing. And it's all like super interesting because like we're on in this conversation. Benedict, you're a video editor. Philip, you have this content, this tarot reading. You have this big project happening, and then Sukash, you have your full-time job, and you're kind of trying to find more alignment, the burnout, and optimizing all this scheduling, and kind of still having these passions for exploring and woodworking and video gear and all that stuff. So this has been like super interesting. And yeah, at the same time, I'm at the beginning of this. Like, I'm not hiding anything. Like, this has been just me trying to create a space to talk about these conversations that I think are super important. And yeah.
Nice. I was just curious on it, but yeah, it's interesting because I mean how it worked for me is like I kind of like was able to like charge a number, then I was more confident, charged it bigger, and kind of that's how I increased. Because I remember when I like first got into this space and like my friends said I should charge $1,000, and I'm like, no, I only want to charge like 50, and it was like so big number, and like I couldn't imagine how people charge that much, and now I obviously charge more, but it's like actual realization around it is like to logically explain why that happens, or what I kind of came to is because if you charge more, that means you are working with people that just make more money, that can afford that. And actually for them, and people say that, oh, those people complain less. And there is if you charge little, people complain more. And it's this weird paradox that no one seems to really understand of why it happens. And one interesting explanation I came to is like, because let's say for a rich person, $10,000 is maybe 0.1% of their money. So if they get the six pack or if they get the transformation, they don't really care about it. But for a poor person, $1,000 might be 50% of their net worth, all of their money. If they blew 50% of their money on something and it don't work out, then that's a serious problem. So money is pretty subjective based on like who is the target audience. And also it's like if the money can solve a problem that's worth more than the problem, then like people usually happy to pay that amount. So at least that's what I see. And do you know like how you plan to monetize, or like is it not really like a priority right now and mostly just like figuring out still the voice part of your in YouTube?
Yeah, it's like a combination. I'm not like eager to sell anybody. Like I don't need it right now, and I'm still sharing my like story, and I'm still like working that out, and seeing like what type of people come from that type of content. And like yeah, I'm just super excited to see like what comes out of that. And yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
No, for me, very useful conversation. But it's like much better than what I expected.
Cool. Like what makes it better? Or
I mean, very useful information and very like meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
Like it's good to know that there are people who like consider like something like a part of money, that there is something else which is more important, like that there is some spiritual value and stuff like that, not only thinking about the usual stuff and like everyday stuff.
For sure. I think that's so important, honestly. I mean, I think that type of life also chooses you, And then if you have a surrounding environment that doesn't support it, it gets strange. I had that in the beginning when I first kind of started to look, I guess, at things from a deeper perspective. There's so many weird words you can kind of find for that. Call it spiritual awakening or whatever. I think once you start doing that and you don't look at life at face value, it's real strange in the beginning to kind of have those feelings and you bounce around people that don't necessarily have the same experience. Yet it is so much more valuable, at least in my life, from my own experience, to follow that which, even though is rationally maybe not the wisest thing to do, but just following that inner voice and just saying, okay, you know what? Maybe I have everything right now: apartment, girlfriend, job that pays me well. Let me just move to the middle of nowhere to find Atlantis. And Atlantis for you can be anything. That's just my own personal thing. But to actually to try and see what value that can bring is so valuable. And I don't want to ever, I always have this in my head kind of that I don't want to look back at the end of my days and saying, oh, I regret not having done that, even though there was such a calling for me to do it, but staying back for some weird reason or safety or rational thinking. So I guess, want to encourage myself and others to just say, hey, just do it and see what happens. Because if you want to join the corporate world, you always can, but it should just be plan Z. Do all other things first.
Yeah, beautifully put. I think like for me, when it comes down to like creating, I was like, how do I make videos I'm proud of? Like that's my form of expression. So how do I make it like the best possible video? And I like came to this conclusion after chasing the algorithm, after trying to do every viral, bullshit tactic, like video editing for other people. It's like, no, it's like the way that I go deeper is by connecting my own dots and like helping other people connect their dots and helping that emergence feed into the expression of the videos and the topics and like the overall zeitgeist of what society is going through. Like all of this, it's like a creative loneliness epidemic that's happening. And like everything's so isolating and so separated where like it doesn't have to be. And like you can go onto this deeper experience with people, connect and go deeper into your passions and like make a living doing so. And that like has been so eye-opening for me to kind of slow things down and stop over-engineering all of this stuff and kind of stop attacking the YouTube algorithms and being like, yeah, I can do it my own way. I can let my intuition guide me through like 8-9+ years of editing videos and kind of reviewing my life in a way and trying to find like the operating system that's like underneath all that and doing all of those basic daily habits that we try to do. And yeah, it's been a long journey and it continues to be. And so I'm at the beginning of this as well. So it's like super exciting to get on these conversations and see what emerges. And so it's been super exciting. Yeah.
Well put. Well put. And I think that's really the spirit, creative collaboration and seeing where that leads us to and being there for one another when another one needs help as much as we can.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to say anything?
On that note, I was thinking about this idea today that it's so nice when someone can create something and there is not this restriction of you need to make money right now, because I think that's can both be bad for the creative process and both for business, that neediness. And also you said, Dominic, that now you have this two-year window, so it's kind of at the same place when it's I don't need money right now. So I practically could like extend my time horizon and play like a longer term game. And that also means that like I don't need to sell in a way that would feel inauthentic, or while everyone else needs to push some product that they maybe don't like that much because it's not that well developed. I can even on the other end help people out and not need something back for a longer time period because I just don't need that money in the short period. So that could be like a comparative advantage too in a lot of fields, I think. There's no neediness to instantly monetize. And that can build up a lot of goodwill over time and maybe sell in a much more authentic way. And I think like Hormozi done a really good job. Wasn't selling anything for 2 years. And then even even when he decided to sell, he found a very authentic way to do so.
Yeah, but Hormozi made like a whole bunch of money off of taking advantage of gym like people. So the basis of that foundation of wealth is a little bit misaligned, or maybe aligned for him, but from all of the experiences of the people that they hurt, maybe not. But he's a great businessman, and he is able to make a lot of money and like make a lot of noise.
Yeah. I think there is always like something that we can take away from someone without not taking away the stuff that we don't want.
Oh yeah,
because
for
I was
sure.
just watching Hormozi today, and like he's really big on like work all day, and like it got to a point when like it's no longer resonated with me. But then I tried to look a little bit deeper into it, and like there was actually stuff that I resonated with, and like sometimes we just don't like people because we don't like part of them, so we no longer like any part of the advice. So you're like, oh, I don't like this person, so none of what they say is true. And it's like so many times you can just take away like just pieces of traits and pieces of habits from different people at completely different domains from life. Even maybe from homeless people or business owners or people who make art, and not be like put into one box.
Yeah, you can find inspiration everywhere. You just need to keep your eyes open and ears open. Yeah. I remember during COVID, 2022, when I was traveling, when I was in a Romanian city, and I was so isolated, and I was just going to the gym and just like watching a whole bunch of YouTube and stuff. I like got sucked into like Andrew Tate, and like his he was like getting super popular at the time, and I was just like masculinity versus femininity and all of those topics. And like I tried to like over engineer some sort of product that I would sell to like gamers, and it was like such a waste of time. But at the same time, like I think a little bit of it helped me to stay like focused on just going to the gym and just staying on track of doing these daily habits of taking care of myself, and not accepting like some worse quality of me. And so that helped me through like that experience. And it's not like I don't watch him anymore, but during that time, like some of the stuff he was saying, some stuff he was like outlandish bullshit, but some like the core like humanistic, being a man, like influenced me and like inspired me to keep on going on this like solitude path that I inadvertently went down on. Yeah.
Yeah, same. And the problem is like sometimes when people hate like people, let's say like Andrew Tate, then they actually do the opposite of what he says. So then it's like, I won't go to the gym just because I don't like this person. So it can create a lot of problems in that sense. So I think it's good to be fluid when it comes to our identity, to like not say like, oh, I'm just an Andrew Tate fan, or I'm just an artist, or I'm just a business owner, but rather just taking pieces from each word.
Yeah. It's like identity ego. That's like the surface level thing that you try to interface with other people. But in reality, it's like all the essence underneath it, all of the operating systems, all of the tiny things you do, and the ways you think. Like that's what is important. Yeah.
That question itself is so deep. Who am I? It's like the deepest thing you can ask yourself. It just gets crazy because it's you can't necessarily answer it, and yet we say it all the time. Oh, my name is Philip. You know, who's my who's that first part of the sentence? And I think, at least in Germany here, it's so common. Like one of the first questions you ask people is like, "Oh, so what do you do?" As if that would be the thing that makes them themselves. It's so strange. It's a bizarre thing, and yet so many people ask that question as a way of conversation. Yet people have so many facets, so many facets, and I think language is such a great tool, and at the same time, it's such so irritating to use it. And there's so many tricks in language as well where you can just hop into, especially if you believe in kind of like the power of speech as well. I always, for example, and that's like a picky example, but I always loved how the Spanish or Portuguese, how they have this estar, or like in Latin languages in itself, they have a word that describes a temporary state of being rather than a permanent one. For in English, you say, I am rich, for example, and you clearly identify as that being a permanent state, and you base your identity on that. Whereas in Latin languages, you say, you know, I am currently with sickness, for example. I didn't want to make that example in English because I didn't even want to say it, you know, because like you identify with the very thing, whereas in other languages, you temporarily say that you are with that thing. And it's so interesting how if you dissect it, you find so many things to fall down on. And maybe that's, again, perhaps a bit too deep for the question, but I find it fascinating to go down these paths because the human system and the way that we brought up and taught has so many things that we can fall down on. It's like what you said earlier to me, Ben, holds so much value too, of limiting and restricting beliefs towards money, financials, towards so many things of ourselves, because it has been raised to that being our identity, at least subconsciously or culturally. And that's so interesting to kind of look at from that view as well.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have like a lot of limiting beliefs around this type of stuff. People say, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. It's hard to get money. You should, and you know, like you grow up with all of this like social conditionings. And then it's like, I don't know, there is this interesting exercise I ran through when I started creating consistently content, is when there is a domain of life where I just suck, or it's just like somehow it's just bad all the time, and like I keep self-sabotaging myself. I spend like an hour to write down all the beliefs I believe around that thing. You know, let's say money. You know, you write and you use two categories of like domain specific and identity specific beliefs. So like in the identity, you say like, I am good at saving money. I am bad at, I don't know, something else. And it's like, you know, how you relate to that thing. And at the domain specific, you just say that money is hard to come by. Money doesn't grow on trees. And, you know, you write down like 30 or 40 of these beliefs under an hour. And then when you look at that list, and probably there will be, if you self-sabotage in that life area, you will find that actually there is a lot of ugly stuff on that paper that like doesn't really help you. So it's interesting to, like really map out our beliefs in that way, because, we can't really control what beliefs society just gave us. But it's usually absolutely our job to change those beliefs if they don't serve us. So yeah, I personally, what I did is like, I choose the most impactful ones from both category. I did this with YouTube. Like I had stuff there like my videos need to be perfect, or like people won't care about my content if it's not perfect, or I suck at recording videos, and like I found a lot of this, and this caused a lot of resistance for me to make content. And I flipped those beliefs and I tried to visualize those beliefs, and like that helped me personally a lot. And yeah. So maybe something to give it a try if you have like a life area when you just like, it seems you just like, not going in any direction, just like turning your wheels. That's being stuck.
Great advice.
Yeah, there's a video on it. You can, if you're interested, Charlie Morgan, how to reprogram your subconscious mind or something like that.
All right, I'll write that down.
He goes into this exact process of like how he fixed his beliefs around business, money, or like outreach. That was his more business specific stuff. And it was a very weird thing, but like somehow it actually helped me. And like, because when we visualized something, we practically create a memory of that thing if we combine even that visualization with an emotion. So like over time, you actually start to act according to that more positive or desirable view you had with that thing. And yeah, it's a nice thing. It just like it requires a lot of work to map it out, and there's a lot of work to then visualize it. But I think it's absolutely worth it for important life areas.
Yes, I have to drop. My life is getting to me, so.
Gotcha. Well, Sukash, it was nice meeting you. Thank you for joining. Hopefully you got something out of this call.
Very useful. Very useful. I hope I'll reconnect next time with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to do these every month. So I'll send you guys some stuff.
The time suits me. Like 6 p.m. is okay.
Perfect. Awesome.
Don't change it.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It's 2:30 here.
Yeah. I'm like
Damn.
so curious to ask you questions, but you're like, it's already so late for you. So maybe next time.
I mean, if you have some questions, feel free. But
Yeah,
like, probably we also have to go soon.
Yeah. Well, you have like decades worth of editing, and now you're making videos, but you have an editor for your videos. And so you're doing mostly planning and writing and all this stuff. Like, I have a question, and the question is, what do you enjoy doing?
I mean, creating nice videos. I think it's like, the whole process of creation. Like just putting out a nice video. I mean, I do enjoy editing, and that's why my editor sends me over the video when it's ready. So if I want to change the music or something, but it's still my editing because it's like I make the SOPs and I made the design for it. But I do enjoy also like writing. I write the script for the videos, which is an enjoyable process. I think I enjoy like kind of all part of it. And also I was thinking on this the other day on passion, and I think it's like, I don't think people like passionate about an activity like ping pong or tennis or video editing. I think it's more like be just passionate about more abstract things. And it's like, there are like real things there are things that fit most of the boxes. For me, it's like mostly imagining stuff and then making that stuff like reality. And when I can like imagine a nice edit and I can recreate that, that's like feels really good. But same with like more the macro, when it's like I have this idea in my head about this, let's say a quote or a video idea, and I want to recreate that. And sometimes that requires more manpower and more work if I want to put that out more consistent basis. But yeah, it's interesting because I don't know too, because it's also like finding kind of this balance between like treating it as a business and treating it as like just pure creative expression. And I think there may be an overlap. And yeah, I think this kind of tries to fall into that. I don't know.
Gotcha. So it sounds more like imagining and turning that into reality is more of the underlying feeling of like satisfaction and fulfillment that comes out of the creative process.
Yes. And I think like skills are kind of just tools, like editing, or if I would be like a website designer, like website design. But yeah, what about for you? Maybe I asked it, maybe I forgot it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it also like more abstract for you, or did you find like passion in like a certain activity?
I like documenting. I like reviewing like how I reacted or how I saw myself or what type of play I made in a game, and kind of like reiterating that or seeing how I could change it or make it better, or something about like the satisfaction of improving slightly at each new like change in the decision, and also like expressing myself creatively, making videos and putting the whole timeline together, and kind of making sense of the world. I've been like reviewing a lot of my footage recently and kind of trying to pick some like good shots and kind of tie in the story to like some of the B-roll of my story, and like B-roll that I shot myself. And like that has been such an experience because I had to look back in my journals to see how I was feeling in that moment to kind of tie in the feeling and like the visual with the story and the song. And that's been like such a eye-opening experience to see that like, oh, it's not because of nostalgia that I went back to Europe. It's because I was like trying to escape this 9-to-5 chemistry career that I had like going for me forward, and like trying to like find my people, and that I thought that if I went back to Europe, I would find my people. And it's like that has been so different than like nostalgia and like, it's everything's more green and more beautiful and all that stuff.
If I can also chip in on that, I'd say I really understand where you're coming from about the abstractness of what there is to really enjoy. Because for me, of course, the creation process as a whole is amazing. There's just, I guess for me, a sense of adventure is the one thing that I really love. That sense of uncharted territory, of not knowing what's happening next and going for that. When I shoot documentaries or when I shoot, videos where I explore ancient sites, for example, that I've never visited before, there's this rush and feeling of, okay, I don't know what's going to happen next. If I interview locals, if I make choices that deviate from that which is usually considered normal, that's what I love. And I think the whole creation process of the video is kind of the motivator and what gives me the reason to go out and act upon the urge to sense adventure, right? And I think, I guess to give an example, the other day, I guess I have the series, which I'm also kind of starting to build up again, where I'm in a random place and I'm just looking for the mystery. I don't look up anything. I just go downtown. I just go to the library and be like, yo, what's the mystery of this city? And it usually
Side quests.
yeah, it sends me down so many side quests, yet it's just personal interactions all the time. I talk with so many different peoples of all walks of life. And usually for me, the joy comes from doing it, filming it, editing. That's a bit more the hassle part, where this is like, okay, this is like, cool to express myself creatively and to show this to the world, and also inspire others to seek for mystery and curiosity in their own life and seek out for that sense of adventure. Yet for me, what really is the joyful part about it is the adventure in itself and the whole process of the unusualness and the unknowingness of the situations that come.
Mm. Are you also interested in the idea of like the infinite possibilities of different stuff of life and in general?
Of course. By everything that's deeper,
Yeah.
I'm completely interested in personally.
Yeah, and there are
It's
people
interesting because
just as fascinated about those similar topics, that seek for mystery, that seek for curiosity and adventure. It's like there are people out there, and
For
I'm
sure.
sure like maybe some in your channel already or in your followers.
Of course, and maybe that's limiting belief too, but like for me, I want to feel this adventure and I want to inspire others. The question is, do I need to sell other people that the mystery is all around us? That's the kind of thing. And I think finding a way to do it it's gonna come, and I believe in the flow of life, and this conversation is very fruitful for that. Just yeah, we'll see what happens. But there are many people that I think benefit from the seeking of adventure, because it makes one feel alive. At least it makes me feel alive. And from Ben, from your facial expression, it looked like kind of like that's what also your kind of passion is. Like situations that feel unusual.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because there is time I was studying personality types, and there is a personality trait called the NE, which means that like there is an I and NE in people's personality type. So that I could probably guess like from 16% which one you have. But it's like the NE means that the person is interested in all possibilities. So it's like interested in life's unlimited possibilities and life adventures. And any more means that like the person is just interested in the one thing, the one truth. And it doesn't interested in like just what's the most effective route. So it's like it's the two types of personalities on that note. And yeah, like I actually, to be honest, I kind of lost touch with that part of myself, that adventure seeking part of myself. And that's why I'm like probably was seeking freedom lately, because I was trying to reconnect with that. Because I remember when I was like younger, I was always like, I don't know, just looked out on the window and like just like see an adventure and like, oh, there's so much cool things probably out there. And like, but lately it became much more of like just doing stuff optimized and like not really doing stuff for just for its own sake or for adventure. So yeah, I'm kind of trying to reconnect with it and just like go to places I never been before with like no plans, and like just do stuff for fun and like without really like knowing too much about it. But to be honest, I wasn't able to like reconnect with that world. So I'm curious like how you did it. And to be honest, it kind of made me like lost the sense of beauty in life and the sense of like magic. Yeah, magic may be the right word. Of like not being able to see these adventurous moments anymore.
I think for me, it's how I said before, the idea of making a video about it gave it a purpose for me to go on an adventure, right? Where it pushed me to do that. And I feel like that was the most spontaneous thing. Like I said, when I lived in Lisbon for a long time, and I had an apartment, I had a job that was paying me well, a girlfriend, and there was a time in my life where my inner voice just said, okay, you need to go on this adventure. And I was already creating content about ancient history and all these things. Yet for my bachelor thesis, I decided to just go completely overboard and say, okay, I want to film a documentary about Atlantis being on the Azorian Islands, which is in the middle of nowhere. I didn't know anyone there. My Portuguese was bad, like pretty all right, I'd say, but like not good enough. And this idea of making something bigger out of that helped me to even pursue this adventure. So I would say, I mean, I don't know what exact position that you find yourself in. Just try and see if there's a purpose that you can give to an adventure. Like, what do you want to find out? Like, there surely is a place in your area that you maybe haven't been to, or that you've been to, that there is a deeper story about that place, maybe a historical one or whatever your interest may be, and try and see if there's maybe a purpose for you to go there. Not just like, oh, let me just go to this place, see what happens, but fill that with purpose. Like, why do you want to go there? Or is there a story you want to tell about it? You know, maybe for a YouTube video, maybe for whatever, you know, what purpose can it have to go somewhere and actually be able to engage with the place that you're going to?
Interesting. I'm in Bali, so like there is a lot of adventures here, jungles and stuff, and even now here in Uluwatu, it's like where I am. It's like I was near the beach, and it's like I just went down into this cave, and you go into the cave, and there is a random temple. It's like completely hidden, and I'm like, Jesus, like like this hidden video game levels. I'm like crazy. But yeah, maybe giving it a meaning. The thing is, like, I'm not really making videos on travel, so I'm thinking how I could like connect it, or maybe just connect it more to like just a weekend or like for like adventure for the weekend where I'm like go check out some place. But it's an interesting point. But I would also like, or so do you find it more meaningful than just like going to somewhere random and just like just exploring the unknown for the sake of exploring the unknown? To like rather pursue a mystery.
I would say exploring the unknown for the sake of the unknown. Because at the end of the day, my personal philosophy is that we don't know anything anyways. So I know that I don't find the truth. However, I find perspectives of the truth, which identifies itself in mysteries. That's, I guess, how I would see it. So I do this with random places. It doesn't matter where you are. It can be the most boring small town. There can be a mystery. There can be something so small and a great story there that you've never even heard of. Even in your own family tree, I'm sure there's going to be one family story that's completely unhinged that you probably never even heard of, yet it can spark that curiosity and mystery about, okay, what happened there? And so I guess that's what I do. It's the idea of, when we were kids, of going on an adventure, seeing that mysterious stone and trying to see, oh, where does that stone come from? Oh, there's a carving. What does that carving say? And even if it's just a symbol, and just allowing that playful mind to take it upon itself to engage with that untouchable thing that you somehow make more graspable. I don't know if that's a word, but like you can grasp it better if you just try and see, okay, what is it that I'm dealing with? What mystery am I looking for? Or what mystery is life providing me with currently?
I like that it's a similar theory to like how creativity works, when it's like, you don't, there is not a logical answer instantly, rather you just like go with it, play with the thing, go into different direction and like see where it leads to. And it's like similar with this thing. It's like, you just, with adventure, it's like you just go to places and it's like you see where it leads to at the end. And it's like, you just try to follow that like maybe like, how I guess Nathan described it, of like just following your intuition into places. One weird thing I did the other day is like, as I said, I'm here in Bali, so everyone has like motorbikes. So at night, I just got into my motorbike and like it's literally driving into the unknown, and like was just like making turns based on where I felt like turning. And you arrive at this completely random location. And sure, I went back with GPS, but I was just curious of where I will end up. And it was a nice thing because so many times I find myself, and I think we like these moments because these moments put us in the present moment. And for me, that was the thing of like what I needed to reconnect with, of like that presence. And once I did that, like I felt much more present in that moment. So for me, that helped, like, because if like, probably it's some evolutionary thing, but it's like, when we like explore a new thing, then we need all our senses to be engaged in that thing. So like, we like pretty present in that moment. But I think also, that presence can also be like kind of just like intentionally used. Because like, so many times I also found myself in like being these beautiful moments where I just end up not even appreciating them. Like, probably a week ago, I was at top of this mountain next to the beach, like at this island. And it's like the sun just was going down and I was sitting on this bench at the top of the mountain. And I was like, fuck, like, a few years ago, I would have like gave everything to like be at this moment. And now it's just a random Tuesday. And it's like, fuck, I forgot to like really connect with this type of experiences. And for me also that helped a little bit of like reconnecting with the present moment. Eckhart Tolle type of stuff.
Yeah, because it's also the unknowingness that takes over. Like, oh yeah, let me take a right here, let me take a left here, but you don't know where you end up, and that's when you become present, right? When the unknowingness takes over and you make it conscious.
Right. That intuition and like the knowing. It's an interesting exercise to do, just like completely randomly, even just like walk to a random place, drive to a random place. Yeah. Probably need to do it more often.
Yeah.
Have you done that before? Or have you done something similar before? Or what about you? On that note.
I have for sure, all the time. I try to, like when I walk out of the house, like, I don't know, I kind of force myself to take different roads or roads that I haven't taken because of that exact reason of I don't know what's there. Even if I've lived there for a long time, I try to say, okay, if I'm running, why take the same route? I'll just try to trust, okay, I don't know, I have somewhat of a good orientation. I'll end up somewhere that I kind of find myself back. And worst case, we all have phones in our pocket, right? So just go wherever you feel and see where you end up.
It reminds me also this really weird exercise I also did in the past, which is like sometimes when we have an experience coming up, we kind of build up like a mental image of how that will feel like, oh, I will go on this vacation, this thing will happen, that thing will happen, that thing will happen. Or if I will buy this chocolate ice cream, it will taste like chocolate or something. And like something I did in the past a few times is like just a moment before, like, like already, like, I imagined this situation and had this mental image in my head of how it will feel like. And it was just before the decision and was thinking about it for hours. Just the last moment, I decided to choose something different. Just for the surprise sake. Just go to the different road. Just choose a different food. Or just do something else that was planned. And sometimes it's weird because like I realize it's pretty nice to like also just be connected to like, or like feel it like, oh, we had this imagined mental image that we had and we thought it would be like this. And then we kind of like crashed that image. So it's also like nice and not nice at the same time, but it's definitely an interesting exercise.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, to just kind of see, yeah, like break the expectation of yourself. And it's also great if you're like, I don't know, I think the camera just kind of went blurry, but I I just also generally, when there's a lot of like build up towards a certain event and we have so many imaginations, like, oh, maybe the crush is there, or who knows, so many different head scenarios. To, before the event, imagine a completely different scenario that you have, like a completely outlandish one, but doing so consciously kind of breaks the own ice and expectations, because you set up, if you like really focus on like, oh, this is going to happen and this is going to happen, breaking it and saying completely the opposite, and then going into the experience puts it again into like it levels it out, where you don't know where is it the rational one or the irrational one. At least it's also a fun exercise to kind of see, because like, what's the wildest situation that can kind of happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. So do you mean it like by imagining something else, or rather by imagining for a positive thing, a negative thing, and a negative thing, a positive thing? So it neutralizes the experience out, or
I,
just experiencing something different, or imagining something different?
that would get into the philosophy of what's good and bad. I would just say, like, if you have like an expectation of, oh, I want this to go a certain way, right? And you imagine in your head, like, oh, I want, oh, maybe, I know that there's a pool, maybe we'll go head into the pool or whatever, jump, or there's so many head scenarios. And then just imagine the complete opposite, like, oh, what if a camel is just there at the party, or just like outlandish situations that kind of balance it out, and see what that brings to the fresh experience. Because it's also a good mental practice to kind of, or like a creative storytelling practice even, to kind of see what your mind comes up with. And it can help ease some of the stress you may have regarding a lot of different things, like whether it's a date or you meeting a new friend or whatever. Best to not
Yeah,
even expect anything, but if you do, it's maybe a good way to balance it out.
yeah. I always imagine some scenarios. I always end up like building up this big mental image of like how stuff will go. So that's why that was helpful. Anything similar experience for you, Dominic?
Yeah, I was thinking back to like capturing the moment a little bit and kind of trying to get into the present moment. And for me recently, that has been like taking my camera and kind of really finding like the little pieces and the little beauties of like normal like objects, or like leaves, or like something on the ground, or maybe the way the light hits some people sitting at a cafe, just like everyday things that you don't appreciate or at all. And like I walk by and I'm like, wait a second, I like zoom in 70 millimeters, get that zoom on, and then it's like it's so beautiful, and I like capture it with the light and the people talking, and like just seeing people's expressions sometimes, or just seeing their reactions to something and just capturing it and looking back and adding the colors. It's like, oh, it's so beautiful. And that like brings, I'm like able to like share that beauty through the videos. But at the same time, I'm able to enjoy the beauty more when I'm in those moments. Of course, there's like a balance of like being in the moment, like if I'm with other people and like hanging with them, but also like enjoying and capturing and seeing by having the camera like on this deeper view, and yeah, capturing those little moments. In terms of expectations, yeah, there's a whole bunch of future calculations you do, like how is this conversation gonna go, like what is she gonna say, or what are they gonna say, or like we project so much into the future. And then of course if that goes into override, then we get into anxiety, and so that gets really tricky, because getting that back down to like base level or normal levels, it can be really challenging. and like reconnecting with the body, of course, helps, like breathing techniques, of course. But there's an element where you two both were talking and you guys felt so alive in the conversation about this like surprise seeking, this adventure seeking. So there's something there, and I'd encourage you guys to dive deeper into that, because that essence I recorded it, so I see it on the conversation and you guys can see it as well. But yeah, you guys felt really present and you were sharing those conversations, so that was really cool.
Yeah, good for you to pick up on that. This is motivating for sure to have even more of those moments in the future or in the now.
Yeah. On that note, there is this interesting view of it that, you know, like I used to believe that like I always kind of try to make the choice between like either being in the moment or capturing the moment. And then I'm trying to make this interesting mental reframing that maybe capturing the moment is the best way to be in the moment, to actually be more present. Instead of it taking away from the presence of the moment, maybe it can enhance being in the present moment. Yeah. But yeah, you probably have to go to, it's 3 a.m. here.
Yeah, sounds
Maybe
good.
I will mess up my sleep every month.
If it's worth it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I usually go to sleep at like 1 or midnight, because like the whole world is usually up a little bit later, so kind of have to get used to it. But yeah, probably need to go to sleep now.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining. Thanks for hanging out and having this conversation. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great meeting you two.
Yeah, so great meeting you as well, Philip. And
yeah, it was nice meeting you guys. Bye, Dominic. Bye, Philip. See you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Time.
All right.
Bye.
Great night.
Have a good night too. Bye.